Allow me to show you something.
Once an opening bid has been made by one player, a subsequent bid by their opponents to compete in the auction is called an overcall. The overcall is similar to an opening bid because it's the first bid for that partnership, and opens the dialogue between them in the same way as the opening bid does for the other side. This means that pretty much everything that we've learned about opening bids also applies to overcalls, but there are a few additional considerations to bear in mind. Because your opponents have already made a bid, your options are usually limited to some degree. If they've opened one club, then you still have all of the other bids available. If they've opened one No Trump, then your side is forced to start the bidding at the 2 level, and if they've made a preemptive bid, then it's harder still for your side to get in on the action, which is of course the whole point of a preemptive bid. Bidding is much easier when your opponents just pass, and you and your partner can have a nice dialogue through a series of bids without outside interference. Of course, the last thing you want to do is make life easy for your opponents, so competing has 2 benefits. It tells partner about your hand, but it also gets in the way of your opponents by limiting their options. When your opponents have made a bid that allows you to overcall at the 1 level, the benefits of interference definitely outweigh the risks of bidding too high, so we compete with hands that would not be considered strong enough to open the bidding. Here, the player on your right has opened with a bid of 1 club, leaving you space to bid any other suit at the 1 level. Doing so tells your partner that you have a hand of between 8 and 17 points and at least 5 cards in the suit that you were bidding, in this case spades. Just like with opening bids, if you have 2 5-card suits, bid the higher ranking one. So you could have a hand like this, and it would still be well worth overcalling 1 spade. This gives partner information about your hand, including what to lead if your left-hand opponent ends up as declarer, and it takes up space in the auction. Your opponents can no longer show diamonds or hearts at the 1 level. If the opening bid is in a suit that ranks higher than the suit you want to bid, that means you would have to overcall at the next level. Now, that balance between the benefits and risks of interference has changed. With this hand, for example, you would happily have overcalled 1 heart over 1 club or 1 diamond, but bidding 2 hearts is more risky. So, to overcall at the 2 level, you should have pretty much an opening hand, even more so if you're vulnerable. This hand, with its better heart suit and 12 points, would happily overcall 2 hearts over 1 spade. But what about hands that don't have the 5-card suit that you need for an overcall? Well, if you have the kind of hand that would open 1 No Trump, balanced 15 to 17 points, then you can also overcall 1 No Trump with one important condition. Because your opponents have already warned you that they have a particular suit, overcalling 1 No Trump also shows that you're not worried about that suit, that you have at least 1 stopper in the suit that they have bid. So here you can happily overcall 1 No Trump with your balanced 16-point hand, containing ace 10 to 4 in the suit that your opponents have bid. But what if you have enough points to bid, but you don't have the 5-card suit and you don't have a hand suitable for a 1 No Trump overcall? As you can imagine, this happens quite often. Here, for example, you have a balanced hand and enough points for a 1 No Trump overcall, but you would be rightly concerned about your opponent's diamond suit and definitely don't have a stopper in that suit. Or here, where you don't have enough points for a 1 No Trump overcall or a stopper in their suit. Well, you'll remember that in Module 8, we talked about how a call of double has 2 possible meanings. This is where the other one comes in. Double, below the level of game, is used to say, partner, I want to compete, but I don't have a natural bid of my own, so please tell me what you have. We call this kind of bid a Takeout Double. Because you're inviting your partner to choose a suit to play in, you should have tolerance for all of the 3 other suits, meaning you have at least 3 cards in each of those suits. That will usually mean that your hand is short in the suit that your opponents have bid. With this hand, you're perfectly happy with your partner bidding any of the remaining suits, so you double one diamond, asking your partner to bid their best suit. You'll find takeout doubles extremely useful in this and other positions. Bear in mind that, as we mentioned in the hints and tips for Module 8, all doubles below the level of game should be seen as takeout doubles. When we looked at opening bids, we also talked about how you can show weaker distributional hands and hands that are too strong for a normal opening bid. The Overcaller also has these options. You remember how we showed a weak but distributional opening hand like this one by skipping the normal 1 level for opening and going straight to the 2, 3 or even 4 level. Well, it works the same way with overcalls, where you skip the lowest level at which you could bid your suit. For example, you can show this weak hand with a 6-card suit by skipping the available 1 heart bid and instead bidding 2 hearts. And with this one, where you have a 7-card suit, you can skip straight to the 3 level. We call these jump overcalls, and they're just like preemptive opening bids, in that the level to which you jump indicates how many cards you have in that suit, so with this 8-card suit you would jump straight to the 4 level, bidding game in hearts. Your partner will know that you have this kind of hand, with not so much in high card points but lots of distribution, because if you had a good hand with long hearts, you would simply overcall 1 heart. There is an important concept to grasp here. Because jumping levels in the bidding takes up space for describing hands, you want to do it when you have weak hands, because the chances are higher that your opponents will have stronger hands, so it's from them that you're taking space. You don't usually do it when you have strong hands, because you want to preserve that space to describe your own hands as much as possible. The last kind of hand you want to be able to describe as the Overcaller is a very strong hand, 18 or more points. Instead of starting with an artificial bid, as you would with very strong opening hands, you show this level of strength by starting with a double, regardless of the shape of your hand. But, I hear you say, how will my partner know that I have a very strong hand rather than just a regular takeout double? Well, we'll look in more depth at that when we look at rebids in a later module. For now, just remember that if your opponents open the bidding and you do have 18 or more points, you should double, intending to show your shape later. You can see from these examples that there are many types of hand that you can describe with your overcall, but sometimes there is just no bid that works. Here, for example, you have 13 points, so it feels like you should bid, but what? You have no 5-card suit, so that rules out a suit bid. You're not strong enough to overcall 1 No Trump, and you can't make a takeout double because you don't have tolerance for spades, which your partner is quite likely to bid if you do double. You have to pass. Which brings us to this position. So far, we've looked at overcalls in the 2nd seat, but what if your partner and the opening bidder's partner both pass, and you're in the 4th seat? A bid from you in this position is still an overcall. There are a couple of extra things to think about here. When the partner of the opening bidder passes, they must have a very weak hand. They would bid with as little as 6 points, maybe even less. Suppose you have something like this fairly average hand. You only have 10 points, and your right-hand opponent probably has fewer than 6. It seems likely that your partner also has some points but wasn't able to bid, possibly because they have a balanced hand like that last one that we just looked at. If that's the case, you and your partner have the majority of the points between you and should be competing. Because these situations arise quite often, you can overcall in the 4th seat with less strength than you need in the 2nd seat, protecting your partnership from losing out to low-level contracts when you have the majority of the points between you. So here you could make a takeout double with your lowly 10 points, giving your partner a chance to bid. Now they can bid their 4-card suit, which they were unable to overcall with previously. Similarly, when you have a balanced hand in what is known as the protective position, that 4th seat, you can overcall 1 No Trump on fewer points than you would need for a direct 1 No Trump overcall, as few as 12. The hints and tips section for this module will give you a few more ideas to think about in the protective position, as well as other aspects of overcalling. So take a look at that and make sure to consolidate what you've learned by taking the quiz on this module.